Okay, check this out. So over here, I'm SSH'd into a hosting a VPS. I'm just gonna run the server. So this is the Hazel server 2024 running on an actual Linux server on a VPS, headless, as you can see. So now I'm gonna open up Hazelnut, and this of course is Genesis 3D, the 3D remake of my first game. And I'm just gonna hit play. Look at this. I'm connected. I've also got the runtime, so I'm gonna open up that separately. And check this out. I'm connected as well. So now I can move around and look, that's me. They're both connected to the same server. And there's also a 5-minute countdown timer like in the original game that the server's controlling, but it doesn't stop there. So over here, I have a laptop and I'm gonna run Genesis as well. And now, check this out. And at the moment, one of the cool things the server can do is spawn females. So let's spawn one at like 3-3, for example. Check that out. And the females are entirely controlled by the server. So yeah, it's been a busy month. So what have we done thus far in this project? Just watch the last video. So we kind of set up the whole networking API infrastructure, which was based off of Walnut networking, which uses Valve's game networking sockets library, which meant that we could set up a server client architecture. So we introduced something called Hazel server to run the server side of things. Now making games in Hazel, they're scripted using C#, so it made sense to extend that to the server as well, so that you could program your game server also using C# and taking advantage of all the tools we've built thus far to actually make games in Hazel. And so by the end, we wound up with this. This is Hazel server running pretty much the full Hazel game engine, running a scene that we built using Hazelnut and using C# to program its behavior. Here it is simulating a physics cube falling and then printing the transform every frame to the console. Okay, now you're caught up. You're welcome. So what's next? What's our plan for today? Now that we have the groundwork set up pretty well, we just need to extrapolate that and make it into something useful. So step one is this Hazel server. Whilst it's cool running on Windows and everything, we want to eventually run it on Linux, and not just on a Linux like GUI environment, but an actual Linux server, meaning we want to be able to compile Hazel server headless, without any kind of GUI, nothing, just so we can run it in a Linux terminal. And then once we've ironed out all of the friends that we will inevitably make along the way, then we can focus on developing Genesis 3D and making it into basically an MMO. That will drive this whole Hazelnet project's development. So yeah, step one, run this on a Linux server, on hosting a VPS. I want to see that working. And then step two, Genesis 3D, MMO edition. Yes, we do need a real server. So it's great that Hosting have sponsored this video and provided us with one for this project. In fact, we already set it up and got it working last video because I wanted to have the full kind of pipeline, the big picture set up and ready to go immediately. So let me take you through it. The first thing you need to know is that at the moment, Hosting are having an amazing Black Friday sale. This isn't gonna last forever, and it's pretty much the best time of the year to actually get yourself a Hosting server. They've got some really amazing deals, like 67% off this KVM2 server, for example. But pretty much everything is heavily discounted. So the first thing you need to do is go to hosting.com/Cherno, pick whatever VPS plan you think you need for your needs, and this doesn't actually matter too much because it's really easy to scale this to suit your needs as they develop. So like easily just switch plans as you go. And then this is super important, when you're checking out, make sure that you use coupon code Cherno here to make sure that you're getting the best available deal. Because as you can see, that'll give you a further discount. I think Hostinger has pretty much some of the best value servers that you can actually get. Because as you can see, they're super affordable, but they're also super high quality. They use AMD EPYC CPUs along with NVMe SSD storage, which just provides a really fast and fluid experience. Obviously, you've got full root access so that you can do everything you need to, which we need for this specific multiplayer project. They've got great tools and support like this dashboard, for example, which is a pleasure to use, and lots of documentation to help you. And honestly, in the years that I've been using Hostinger for, I've never had an issue. Everything just works. So once you've got your VPS, you'll need to set it up, which not surprisingly is very, very easy to do. The first thing you'll need to do is pick a location for your VPS. I picked Phoenix over here because it's in the US where the majority of my viewers are, but it's also more to the west of the US, so it's closer to where I am, which is over here in Melbourne, Australia. I think it's really cool, by the way, how Hostinger picks the best latency for you and actually shows you all the latencies to all of their different servers so that you can pick. Then you'll need to pick an operating system. I just went with Ubuntu 24, which is actually what I've been using in the physical computer I have in my office as well. And finally, just create a root password password, and you're done. You can just SSH in and use your server however you need. So if you need a VPS or any kind of web hosting really, go to hosting.com/Cherno, use coupon code Cherno, and take advantage of these amazing Black Friday deals. And of course, huge thank you to Hosting It for sponsoring this video and this project. Now we can actually get Hazel running on a real server and have some multiplayer fun. So now let's try run it. I mean, I've very low hopes for this actually running. Okay, we just need to copy a DLL in, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so we did a little crash here. Other was 1, awesome. That happens in application in window. Okay, so we are in headless application, but we're creating a window. That should be okay, because that should map to a null window. Or does it though? So window.h, but let's see, that's different. That's a null window. Okay, so this is probably just, oh no, wait. So window create, if it's a headless build, it should give us a null window. So render API, I guess render API was not set to null. So to set API, that never gets called. Okay, so this looks like it's just set to Vulkan basically. Is this like annoying syntax if I do it like that? I just don't want to write this line twice. Or should I? Because it will look better. What do we think? I mean, there's another way we could do this as well. I guess we can implement this function and maybe call it somewhere. So we'd have to probably do this in like, I don't know, entry point. I guess it should work. Okay, so now we get a window, which is like a null window, so it's not really real. Oh my goodness, check this out. Guys, this is Hazel running headless. Dude, this is so exciting. Let's start up the client and see if we can do the same thing we did with like hitting the R key and stuff. Oh man, and then next step's gonna be just getting this running on Linux, which I think should kind of already work. This is very exciting. So this must mean that this little console window here is running, yeah, like a full physics. It's running a full on Hazel scene with physics and everything. Okay, well, we're receiving data. So let's press the R key and see if that cube respawns. It didn't. In the headless version, we just disconnect straight away. What if it's sending too much data? Obviously, like the iteration of this might actually be faster. The delta time is probably tiny. It's 0.0005. So like, what if we tried to do kind of what the actual server was doing, which was sleeping for 10 milliseconds? Just slow it down a little bit. I think we did it. So can I press R? We did it. Nice. So the next step that I wanted to do was actually deploy it so that it would be running on an actual server. Thanks to Hostinger, who's kind of been sponsoring this project. I think we're gonna have to build all of this situation on Linux first, and then obviously deploy it over there. So let me maybe do this. So this monitor over here, that's kind of where I wanna have this. I'm gonna need to get like some kind of HDMI. This is gonna be running Linux. I probably should try and get a better angle. This is the Linux computer. So we're gonna hit the power button together. I think I can do linux run.sh, and then what you should see is Hazelnut, right? So this is obviously Hazelnut running on Linux. Yay! Let's do scripts and then linux build, I think, .sh. So we're gonna build this stuff. Don't look at the warnings. The warnings, don't worry about the warnings. The compile warnings. Oh, we got an error. Base64.hpp not found in animation graph. Oh, I know what it is. It's 0x's fault. The include path that's coming here is vendor base64 include, but the directory is a lowercase b. So obviously that doesn't matter on Windows because it's case insensitive, where we have, do you guys just love this kind of, to zoom into the code, I actually zoom in the camera. You can see that it's set, base64 is set to include that. So this needs to basically change to a lowercase b. And then I think we should be okay. Yeah, cozy compiling. This is a stream in which the code compiles and that's it. Okay, so Linux totally didn't just work. This was the hardest hurdle of the month. This took, I think, about a week to resolve. There was a crash that happened only on Linux. Windows worked fine, and I created a scene in Hazel that specifically reproduced it. Basically, whenever this one function was called, this script component getInstance, which was supposed to return this Coral managed object, is a pretty important function. It's used when you want to retrieve like the C# script instance off of an actual entity in Hazel. So that is supposed to return something called a Coral managed object. That just crashed, and the debugger on Linux was like, I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, it gave us a hard time. The renderer spinning up, we got the audio engine initialized as well, it looks like. And then we're starting scene main. And then obviously by starting scene main, it's probably, you know, creating all the entities, calling on all the onCreate functions. And that's calling script component getInstance. So so this is interesting. because again, the fact that it's not happening on Windows is means that I don't know what to do now. I'm thinking, like, you know, what are the differences between Linux and Windows? And one of the differences is obviously that, you know, longs, for example, are 32-bit instead of 64-bit. So what if something's happening with the types where it just thinks that at one point it's like, I don't know though, because obviously this is much bigger than what a uint32T would hold, for example. But what if it's somehow going through some issue? And I guess well, and it's specifically in this function though, that's the thing. Because obviously, like when we get to find entity by ID or whatever, you know, we end up having, but this is all C++ side on the other hand. Whereas that was C# side. Oh, hang on. Returning a reference to a local temporary object. That's not good. That happens a lot, man. I was gonna say if it's some kind of like C# memory thing, then address sanitizer probably wouldn't, well, it wouldn't get it, but it should anyway, because like either it happens in, like, you know, the allocation goes into native code or whatever and happens there. Well, actually, that's one thing we're not address sanitizing is Coral. Let's try that, because I don't understand. I've got this malicious code sitting inside here, and yet my address sanitizer is just like, nah, bro, that looks legit. So let's try and open Genesis, right? So I have Genesis over here, because that seems to crash. Oh no, it did open. I thought this was crashing. Okay, so here's Genesis on Linux, running. Can I hit play, or is that too much? That's too much. Oh, look, but it's the same problem. It's the same problem as when we're trying to run our server. I mean, we've also got Sandbox project, which we could build. Took a while to open, and then there's main world. So main world, oh, that just crashed. Oh, look, address sanitizer, I think. Buffer overflow. Yeah, I mean, I guess this could be a buffer overflow. I'd like to get this into a situation where it lets me debug my variable, because I think that might help with whatever else we've been doing. You can see now that my material IDs that it's trying to access has a length of 1. So we need to figure out how on earth that happened, because that doesn't seem to happen on Windows. It tries to allocate some memory, I guess. Oh, managed object happens there. It does a copy for managed object. Look, it's the stupid problem type again. So it's copying managed object. Wait, does this work? It's this thing that doesn't work, dude. Because, you know, that's another thing in common, right? That happens when we try and return a managed object. It has to copy it. So in our, like, get instance function, Coral managed object, I'm imagining it copies it here as well. But then luckily, Emily came along and fixed it. Yeah, so basically this looks obviously totally legit, but we're getting some kind of crash. Feels like a difference in calling conventions. No, it shouldn't be. Also because, like, well, the reason why that's, like, yes, it seems like it might be, but I don't think it is, and it's not, most likely, because again, like, everything else works fine, right? So specifically, like, we've basically narrowed it down to the fact that it specifically seems to be with this Coral managed object situation. And the reason why is because it's always this function that crashes. Everything else runs fine, right? And also, and obviously, like, we heavily call native functions from C# and vice versa. And so if it was a calling convention issue, everything else would probably be messed up. But the other thing that is a giveaway is that in the net project, which is obviously the actual server and the networking stuff we're working on, we have a function that also crashes. And the function is, for example, like this connect to server file. Every time I zoom, it completely knocks off my position. It's so annoying. It's called connect to server, and what does it take in, do you think? A Coral managed object. And so basically this gets taken in, it seems garbage, but as soon as we call this function, it crashes. And I'm not talking about calling the Lambda, like the actual Lambda code inside, but just calling this function. The reason why is because to call, like, when we call when you create this Lambda, you can see it's taking in managed object by value here, so it's copying it. It's calling the copy constructor, and I guess when it tries to access that memory or whatever, it just crashes. So obviously, again, it's to do with managed objects. So yeah, really weird, but at least we have it somewhat narrowed down, and you can see I've been doing some debugging in, like, in the net branch over here, where we were basically just dumping, like, the entity map, seeing, like, okay, well, is this entity even valid? Like, is there an entity with this in the scene? Like, what? And of course there's not, and of course this crashes, like I just showed you in the other branch. So yeah, that's kind of where we were at on Friday. I mean, we've been at this for like a week now, I think. And it seems weird, and obviously if we look at this, like the actual crash is like some, I don't know, like there's some memset is like just resulting in segmentation fault. It seems very weird, right? Like basically everything to do with managed objects seems weird. So I was like, okay, don't know why this is happening. Let's maybe try and get Emily to take a look. So Emily, for those of you who don't know, is a volunteer on Hazel, and she basically is the one who added Linux support in the first place, right? So we really only supported Windows for a while, but then Emily came along and was like, you know, let's make this run on Linux. And so there was a little bit of work involved in that, because there was some, like I always planned, you know, to have multiple platforms for Hazel. So we obviously used a lot of things like GLFW, which already has Linux implementations. Any Win32 API code that I wrote was isolated in like a Win32 platform folder, basically. So we had multiple implementations per platform. I had all of that kind of, you know, thought out. So it wasn't a complete disaster, but it was still a lot of work. And I think this was like years ago, basically, that she added this, and has also been maintaining it over the years, which is awesome. So huge thank you to her. But I was like, yeah, like, what's going on here? Do you have any idea? Because I've been at this for days, like, no clue. It's got to be something that is specifically going on, maybe with you know, the way this is being marshaled, or like managed objects, like have we run into problems like this in the past, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, yeah, it sounds actually like something that we've been doing. And apparently she's fixed it. So I haven't actually tried the fix yet. I've looked at the diff and everything, and we're going to take a look at it together here in a second. But it's not okay. So fixed it is like maybe not exactly the right term. It's more or less like, yes, this is a known issue with, like, for some reason, it seems like very small, like her explanation, as far as I understand, was basically the fact that in the past, when kind of getting the whole C# and C++ scripting engine situation to work on Linux, she ran into issues with small structs, basically, or like classes with not much data in it. So if we look at what managed object is pretty small, because it's only got 2 pointers in it, so it's 16 bytes, right? So it's just this, right? So small 16 byte, in this case, data types that you pass by value like that, so you're just supposed to copy them. There's something weird that happens where if they're small enough to fit in like some CPU register, then it can, I think it can just shove them in there or something, and then something happens to them, and it's just like looking for them at the wrong register or address or something, right? So it does seem to be some sort of memory issue that happens when marshalling between the two languages, really, and it just seems to like lose track of the right place to get that memory from, I guess. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, it is an ABI problem, yes. And so it was kind of like, okay, well, what do we do here? And the workaround, apparently, that she came up with, which, I mean, she tested it and it works, so we're gonna test it here in a minute and obviously implement it and stuff. It's already on the dev branch, but it's not on the net branch, so we'll pull her changes in a minute. But basically, it's the whole idea now is let's just pass these as pointers, right? So we're not actually going, and there's no real difference, right? But it's just, instead of copying the data when we pass it into the parameter and passing it by value, let's just pass it as a pointer instead. And then obviously we can access the memory at that pointer to get what we want, and that's it. So it's really like, it's a very, very simple workaround that just lets us circumvent, I guess, or get the compiler to not do some kind of parameter packing optimization that might lead to it being in a register for whatever reason, right? So that's is to make a large buffer. No, that's not the yeah, let's make this object really, really big. So that, and then this seems to work, because I guess with pointers, like, they just end up being like, oh, okay, I guess that's not a value based like pod type or whatever, it's actually like a pointer. So I've got a special kind of way that will be, you know, packed or put or transferred or whatever it might be, right? So that seems to be the fix. So I'm just gonna open up like GitHub. Sorry for the flashbang. So the commit is this, right? You can see that what's happened here as well. So with the get instance, oh no, sorry. And it's not just making it a pointer. It's not just making it a pointer. It's also making it be taken in as a parameter. So you can see that what's happened here, this is in the C#, this is an internal call, is we've added void to the end of this because the last, I really always think it should be the first, but anyway, Peter made this for some reason, the last one. So the very last template argument, because this is variable as well, which makes it weird. The very last template argument here in this template kind of thing, it's not really a template, but anyway, is the return value. So you can see that this used to return a native instance. This is back in C# land, and it used to take in one parameter, which was a ulong, which was that entity ID, the UN64T. And now we take in two parameters, ulong and this native instance pointer. By the way, native instance is the C# like equivalent of that Coral managed object. So in C#, again, I don't know, Peter made this, but he decided that it should be a Coral managed object in C++ and a Coral native instance in C#. I don't know why I didn't call them the same thing. Whatever. Yeah, so just know that a native instance is the same thing as the Coral managed object. It's got those two pointers and whatever. It's the same thing. And then void is the return, right? So instead of returning something, we have this pointer here, which obviously allows us to set that as like an output parameter. So you can see that this has also changed from just returning this because it was a return value to now here's basically the output and we just pass in that address and then obviously we write to that and then we end up returning it. So let's try that again. There you go. Hi, I'm the camera. Beautiful, right? So huge thank you to Emily because that is very relieving. Now, I don't even think we have the type set to the correct type, but it seems to work. So I might just not set it back to pin. So the reason why, like that pinned thing is also a bit of like an interesting thing because it used to be pinned, right? So this is basically pinned. Pinned just means that if you read what this means, just on like MSDN, like the documentation, it just says that pinned, as the name kind of implies, means that the garbage collector, you're making kind of a handle to this actual, you're getting a handle to this actual native object instance, right? So this is obviously a C# object, and you're passing in the instance into here. It's going to give you a handle, and that handle is basically like a memory address that you can actually use back in the native code to access the data that is this object, right? So it's very important. But obviously garbage collectors are kind of complicated. They run on a separate thread and they can just be like, I need to do some rearranging. So I'm going to either delete your object entirely because it's gone, it doesn't need it, or it could even just be like, I'm going to move this object around in memory. And if it moves it, it's obviously an issue if you've got a pointer, like a memory address to that object in C# land, it's a managed object that has just gotten moved. So you're going to try and access the memory and it's wrong. So that's basically what, as far as I understand, normal kind of lets the garbage collector potentially do that, but pinned is like, no, this object is pinned, so you cannot move it. That's obviously something as well that you shouldn't keep forever, because if you keep that forever, then it kind of it reduces the efficiency, you know, of C#, I guess, because if the garbage collector and like the memory system, I guess, is not allowed to move memory around, then it might not be able to optimize like fragmentation or like whatever else it needs to do, right? So it's not ideal to have this, but the idea is that you only obviously have this temporarily, and then when you dispose of the object, you're obviously freeing the handle, which means that now that instance, that managed object instance, is no longer pinned, obviously. So you're only supposed to do this like transiently, I guess, while you're in native land, and then as soon as you're done with that function, you can basically dispose of this. And that's basically what should happen, because obviously it's when you're disposing of this native instance wrapper, not the actual object itself. Okay, cool. So does that make sense, everyone? Good. Yeah, so anyway, obviously it looks like that fixed it. Can't believe how much Linux dev I've been doing lately. I mean, I kind of expected, I guess, a lot of it, but maybe not this much. Okay, so yeah, so hopefully now we'll hit play and it should work. But yeah, the ultimate test obviously is going to be to run the server. Like after we get this running, I'm going to run the server, probably the GUI server maybe, and see if that works, because that was kind of opening up, but then it was crashing because of that script, like get instance thing that we just fixed. And then after that, it's going to be headless server, I think. Okay, let's have a look at this. Oh, awesome. See, this is the worst, because like, I don't know why that happened, and we're not getting much debugging, which sucks. Oh, well, actually, we kind of know. This is a little bit helpful. It's an undefined behavior sanitizer. Load of misaligned address. Wait, I didn't do this properly, did I? No, I didn't at all. Yeah, how did I manage that? So proxy, this is supposed to be the memory address of this proxy thing. That's why we made this in the first place. And then if we go to internal calls and we find a connected server, then yes, that's supposed to be the memory address of that. And we're taking that in. So that's actually correct. Cool. So let's compile this and run it again. Yay, it works. So it just says connecting. Yeah, sure. So we can try, now that we've compiled everything and we know it kind of works, the server should kind of work as well, I think. Try and do a build all, and it obviously should build an asset pack for the server. If it does that, then we should be able to run the server maybe. And we need to do that because otherwise it will not run the server correctly, since we need to repackage the asset pack with our newly built server C# DLL, because that has the fixes for like the parameters and stuff for the managed object native instance marshaling thing. Oh, guys, I think we're running our server on Linux. Look, I think we did it. All right, guys, so this is a big moment, right? Because I'm about to run the client over here, and we're gonna see if we connect to the server. I mean, we should, right? Let's just hit play. Okay, so we're getting a weird, that's probably okay, it doesn't matter. Anyway, it is working. Yep, it's working. We don't have the ground, unfortunately, and it does say we're connected. So does the physics cube work if I hit R? Is that what we were supposed to be doing? And what was the other thing? Spawning women? Does that work? It doesn't really look like it's doing anything. So maybe, but it does say we're connected. What does the log say? Okay, it's upset. Yeah, that's fine, I think. What is all this though? Invoke method, invalid operation. Manage object CS. Okay, so you know what this is? This is probably me making a mistake. Basically, invoke method is not working because of something. So it's probably something here, right? So, oh, we're not creating the server proxy. Ugh. I knew I forgot some stuff from client. We forgot these two lines basically. Okay, ready? No. Okay, so we're not getting any. We can see client connected. We're not getting any messages here. There is. Oh yeah, that's fine. That's just the drawing thing. That's why we don't see the actual map. But if I write R, guys, we did it. We literally did it. And then I can spawn females, I think. I don't know where they're spawning. Let's spawn one at 0, 0. There she is. Now what I want to do is I want to take this, and obviously the problem with this server at the moment is it's full on running, it's running everything. It's running Vulkan, it's running ImGUI. We need this to actually run like in a Linux terminal. We need it to run headless because the next step is going to be to run this server, not on this Linux computer, but on a Hostinger VPS. That's our goal, right? The thing is, we're probably gonna have to do a bunch of build configurations just to make sure it works on Linux and everything is correct. Okay, so the headless server. Let's close what we have running at the moment. We will talk about the headless server. So we have that obviously working on Windows, and we have we basically have this build headless thing, right? So we just ran, I think, pre-make normally. So we actually have a file that is both the server and the client, but now we're gonna do, I think, build headless or something. So let's have a look at scripts. I guess Linux, we can do Linux setup. Let's copy that one and we'll rename it to Linux setup headless. I guess I won't do any of this. But we do need Coral and stuff. We probably don't need Sandbox project here though. We still need this, yeah, so I'll keep that in there. File equals build headless, and then everything else I don't really care about. So let's mark that as executable. So that, I mean, that's probably gonna overwrite all of our make files, isn't it though? So sure, we can clean. So it's a bit annoying switching between the two, I guess, here. On Windows, it would have generated a separate solution file and separate project files, but obviously this is just by using make, so it's just gonna be make files. But I guess that's all right. So yeah, let's just make sure we do a make clean. So you can see now it's cleaning a different set, and it's Hazel server headless instead of just Hazel server, because that's the GUI version. Maybe it will just work, you know, that would be great. I mean, I guess it should, unless there's specific code within either configuration in that pre-make file that we need to modify, or there's, you know, code blocks that are behind a hz headless macro or something, like an hz headless define that obviously weren't being compiled before. Other than that, yeah, it should be fine. Oh no, we already failed actually. So GFW, okay. Linux file system, that shouldn't include that file because obviously we're in a headless build. So what does it even use it for? Doesn't look like we are. So that's a weird include. But yeah, STD format, is that really not found? Let's try build this again. Which one of these two though? It's 50-50. It's annoying. I hate 50-50s. Left one. All right, guys. Oh, look, it built successfully. That's nice. Let's try and launch it. So if we now just open up a terminal. Whew, we're running it inside a terminal, everyone. So now what we do is we run editor. So now if I hit play, client connected, and can I respawn the cube by hitting R? Wait, where'd the cube go? Oh, it's here. Let me make this smaller. Guys, this is epic. Okay, that time step. And then can we spawn a female? Of course we can. Oh, the sweet taste of success. All right, do you guys like what you see? Okay, well, there's no Vulkan anymore, which is great. Yeah. We'll probably have to install protobuf on the server and probably maybe some of the compression libraries. I don't know, something else. Okay, so 150 meg, we'll start uploading that. Try and run the server on the server and we'll see what the server tells us. And then based on that, we'll make some moves. Hazel server. Headless. Anyway, look though, we're running. So we're actually done in terms of static libraries and stuff. Or dynamic libraries rather. So really, we just needed to do this one thing and then make sure that we had protobuf and this. Everything else seemed to already be on the server. So that's cool. We now need to get the actual Genesis project onto the server, right? So let's make a folder called Genesis 3D. I guess inside the asset. Okay, well, we need the data directory because that's got, it's not actually going to use that, but I think it needs it. In the assets directory, it needs the server asset pack, the project hdat, maybe this audio commands registry. I'm going to try not to include that though. And then that actually might be it. Let's try and run this again. Oh yeah, and so now we can actually just be like run server, but like Genesis 3D, dude. Because maybe it's doing it relative to... So what, like if we did this? Hey, okay, yes, it is that. It's trying to load a stupid editor resource icon. Okay, let's just add this, and we'll like what's in here? Oh, a whole bunch of stuff, unfortunately. No, I added it pretty quickly. They're all tiny files, but yeah, it's annoying that it needs it. Oh, because it's supposed to be in resources. Guys, are you seeing this? We're actually running the server on the server. So now let's open up just the net branch, I guess. If we look at Genesis client, that tries to connect, and it used to be localhost, right? But we're gonna change this to be, I think it's gonna be like uswest.studiocherno.com. 8192. I don't know if this will work, as I just said. We might actually have to resolve that ourselves. Okay, we got some... It did say connecting to server, but I guess that didn't work. I wonder if that's... Okay, let's check to see if the domain resolution actually works. Like, as in, it actually goes through that path even. Yeah, we're just passing that server address as is into, I guess, the client.cpp connect to server. Yeah, that I don't think that does anything to resolve anything. Before we get the domain name working, let's first actually get the server address working, right? Sweet. All right, you guys ready? I mean, this should work. If it doesn't, that's gonna be upsetting. Our ports might be blocked. I don't know what the port situation is. We'll have to see if we have to like reduce the firewall or whatever. We're in. Guys, we did it. So now if I hit R and then Alt Tab, we are doing it. It's running now on hosting a server, and we can simulate our cube. We can spawn some women. Yes. So now, what do we do? Like, let's have some fun with this and make it something a bit more fun. So server manager, I guess we need to implement some concept of like a timer. Like we could just be like timer plus equals TS, which is in seconds, I believe. So that's like not hard to obviously convert into minutes or whatever. So we can start it at 0, or we could start it actually at, yeah, we could say like, 5 minutes times 60 seconds as well. I guess that might make more sense. If round timer less than equals to 0, for example, then obviously we need to restart, game over, new round, but probably not new round in immediately, like because we want to show the high scores. But for now, we can just make it like, you know, new round. I don't know, like let's just say that every time a client connects, we're gonna instantiate that prefab. So I actually want to come and get this like concurrent queue thing, because we're gonna have to queue up events here, I think. So every time someone connects at the moment, for fun, we'll just spawn a female, and obviously that will somewhat persist, right? So what that means though is we're gonna test that persistence, I guess. So we're going to, at the moment, we have to send every female that's in the female container, obviously, as well as the time. So update clients. And then what I'm gonna do is let's create a buffer. I don't know how big it needs to be. Let's set the packet type here to be like 4, because I don't think we've used that before. And it's gonna be up to Genesis client, obviously, to receive that stuff. So we've just got this cube thing, so let's probably should just delete all this other testing stuff. And then for each of these, it basically just needs to send, let's just send a position right now. We're gonna set a rotation, pop it somewhere else, and let's give it a script that's just the female. So where is it? Okay, it's off, man. So 50 is too much. I don't know why it's 50. How about just like 5? Or is that even too much? Okay, cool. There we go. Check that out. That's pretty cool. And so I guess kind of what we have to do here is we'll have a female container as well. Do remote female container dot instantiate child, and we'll do obviously remote female, which we might not have yet. Public prefab remote female. So now obviously let's try and run this, and we'll see. I'm expecting some stuff to crash here, obviously, but we'll see what happens. So you ready, guys? Oh, cannot apply force to a non-dynamic body. Well, we didn't crash, and if you can look closely, you can see the timer seems to be working. So it's counting down. If I hit stop and I rejoin, you can see it crash. It crashed, I think. Offset and length were out of bounds. Okay. It's all right. It's all right. We expected this, right? Now my whole console's red. Now, oh, it's a static rigid body. So so that's what the thing was complaining about. The fact that cannot apply force to a non-dynamic body. So somehow we didn't make that dynamic, apparently. So the size here should apparently be 9 bytes. I should probably just do this like, so 1 for the type, 1 byte for the type, 4 for this, for the round timer, plus 4 for the length. That's how we end up getting our 9 bytes that we had there, plus 8. Oh, because it's 8 per thing. So for this, it's the amount of children we have times 4 plus 3 plus 8. That's why. So 4 times 3 is because we have 3, like we have a vec3 basically. We've got 12 bytes here, and then obviously 8 bytes for the thing, and it's per child. I just had it as if it was like sent once, as if this was out of the loop. So we're connected. Is there a female somewhere in the world? So the timer obviously is working. So this timer is being run entirely on the server. I can walk around. So every time I connect, I believe a female should spawn. Now we can actually look at the editor and see there's nothing in remote female container. There's the event queue size as well, because I really wanted to verify that it was correct. Yeah, see, it's getting very high. Like 38 is massive. That's 38 functions in there to execute. It's because the server's sending us much more. We really need to restrict this to like 30 FPS or something, because this is crazy. An exception. Oh, event queue size 6,000. Yeah, because it's gonna keep, see, that's the issue. If this frame rate falls down even low, it's just gonna keep sending us. It sent us 6,000 messages from the server to update stuff. That's crazy. Same key has already been added. Oh, look, so it does work for a bit, but then it doesn't work because something's null. Maybe I didn't set the prefab. I'm lost. What is it? It's called remote female on the Genesis client script. Oh, it's not set. Okay, so now if we connect, hey, there she is. Okay, let's go back to our player character. Okay, where is she? She's here. Cool. And so that she's gonna persist, right? So if I stop and I play again, she's probably still there, but we got another one. And we're gonna keep getting more every time we join. Isn't that cool? And obviously the time is persistent. Hello, entity that is not real, that does have a physics collider, so I can't actually go through you. That's kind of cool. Yeah, so now I guess what would be cool is if we had multiple players joining. But the only thing with other players joining is we're not actually maintaining other player positions and transmitting them. So I think that's probably something that would be cool, right? So let's keep the functionality we've got, but what I would like to do now is also do the same thing we're doing but with other players. We can start this server side, right? So the server manager, I want it to kind of maintain like a list of clients, I guess, as well. Or does it even need to? I mean, yeah, well, I guess so, yeah. Let's do this. Let's just do this for now. So we'll do dictionary ulong, which is the client ID, to just do this really simply. So we'll have like M, player positions or something, right? Really simple. So let's do the same thing we do on the client actually, which is this thing. So we have type and then we have the span buffer because the first byte is just the type or whatever. Let's just say type is 1, which is a position update. Player info dot try get value. He is going to be the client ID, which comes in from here on data received. So we're just sending basically who are we and then where are we. We're going to receive that data from players every frame, or I don't know how often. Let's just like see what happens. And that's it. And it's just going to obviously update it. It's going to update the player info. So we'll get that. We've decoded all the data pretty easy. We've got the player position. So now I think we can just do our event queue just to update it basically. I actually should be able to have multiple instances of this, which is pretty cool. So you can see the time here should be the same. Check this out. So I got the same time. Now it also didn't make any players though. Oh, it's because it's the same instance, so it's gonna have the same UUID. That's why. Here's what we can do. We can generate a UUID that we just keep for ourselves, which could be cool, but the client actually already has one that we can use, I think. So basically, it's not that hard. This is all we have to do, I think. Basically, when we send the UUID, I think what we're doing is we're sending our ID, but let's do mclient.id, because that is generated per client, so that's actually unique. But we can obviously check to see if when we receive it, whether it's our client's ID or not. Let's also join here, and hopefully I won't be on top of each other. Guys, this is me, I think. Let's walk in front of him. Guys, are you seeing this? That's me. This is me here. Look, I'm walking around him. Now that is pretty dope. Do you really need to do the root motion on the server? Well, short answer, yes. Like, you don't need to do the full animation, but the problem is because we have a player, this root bone here, the animation of that's been authored in like something like Blender, right? That actually moves it. That is physically what moves the player. So when I'm running around the screen right now, it's the actual like animation from the asset that actually moves the entity. And so if I still want animation-based movement and I don't want to just be like, okay, screw root motion, I'll just play the animation at the same time as actually moving the entity, which of course is going to look much worse. Then I don't need to do any animation on the server and everything's great. Otherwise, I don't need to do the full animation and the skeletal like bones and do everything like that obviously on the server, but I still need to be able to just be like, okay, root bone, what are you doing? Anyway, guys, this is pretty epic. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty excited about this. I think we've basically got this working, and obviously I guess I could keep joining in with other clients and it would work, right? Like, this is a pretty big milestone. I don't know. We're probably gonna take a break from this project for a while, I think. I might clean it up and stuff and just make it good, but yeah, we'll see. We'll either take a break from this project or we're gonna double down on it and actually make this into like a bit of an MMO-y game. But the problem is that like this looks like it works really well. The detail, by the way, is so nice. Look at the detail. Like, I just noticed the detail, and it isn't even 4K textures. I think there's like 1K textures, but like just the detail in this was like just looking really good here, which you might not see on stream. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. It's been such a journey, but I'm glad we have something pretty cool up and running now. It was worth it. And obviously this is just the beginning, as I always say, because there's lots of other things to do. Oh look, the server's about to restart the timer, because see, we're at like 2 seconds left, 1 second, and yeah, back up to 5 minutes. Round 2. Next round. Yeah, but I think this is a pretty good example now, obviously, of multiplayer. In Hazel, we've got two clients, both connected to a remote server somewhere in the US that's running Ubuntu and is like hosting a VPS. 2 clients communicating, getting stuff. The females are all in sync. That's what matters, you know. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Hope you enjoyed the project. This is going to be the end for now. For this, like, as in, I don't know when I'm going to resume this. I'm probably going to, next time I stream, I might work on the new renderer. Until then, keep it real. Goodbye.